Alright, welcome back for the Shaman cards. So I was looking over the current meta to see if I was missing anything. And then I compared to kind of what the new cards are that are coming out for Shaman. And honestly, not looking terribly promising. Honestly, just maybe one card will maybe work in this next meta because they're pushing for a certain archetype for Shaman, and I honestly do not think it's going to work. But I may be proven wrong, so let's just jump into these. So we got the Dunk Tank, a 4-cost spell, which is deal 2 damage, and if it's corrupted, then it deals 2 damage to all enemy minions as well. Honestly, a relatively good control card. It's just decent value, especially with the corrupt. Without the corrupt, it's kind of iffy, but since it's not too hard to corrupt, it should work pretty well, especially since it fits more into a control archetype more than an aggressive one. So I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10 because it is still relatively decent, but it just doesn't do as much as you'd probably hope it would. Because dealing 4 for 4 is kind of a little underwhelming, and then it takes a little bit longer to get that corrupt. So I think it's a 6 out of 10 then. Type of deck would really only be a control shaman if that becomes a thing, which I don't think it will. So you probably won't see it around much. Deathmatch Pavilion. 2-cost spell, you summon a 3/2 duelist. If your hero attacked this turn, you summon another one. It's fine-ish. It's very difficult to get that hero attack off, which is very much what they're pushing for Shaman's expansion, where it's like this card gives your hero attack, this card gives another shaman weapon or whatever. I just don't think it's going to work. A weapon attack shaman or like weapon attacking in general is just weird. Doesn't make sense, and I don't think it's going to work. So the card just really ends up being a 2-cost 3/2, which is just not good. So since it's very difficult to pull off that extra value out of it, so I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. Type of deck, you probably won't see this unless like attack shaman becomes a thing, but it probably won't. Magic Fin, 3-cost 3/4 Murloc. After a friendly Murloc dies, you add a random legendary minion to your hand. This would be a great addition to the Murloc deck if it didn't add random legendary minions to your hand, because legendary minions are generally very expensive, which a Murloc deck is generally aggressive. So I mean, if you're trying to do like a control Murloc deck for whatever reason, this would be a good card for that. But just because of Murlocs, of how they're made, just make them aggressive in general, and you can't really make a control Murloc deck then because of that. So it just doesn't work. So basically, what I'm trying to say is this card, I mean, it generates a great amount of value, but you have to put Murlocs then in your deck, which is counterintuitive to the deck, because the deck is meant to be aggressive then. So for that reason, I will still actually give it a 5 out of 10. Type of deck you would see this in, I don't even know, some type of weird, maybe a multiple archetype type shaman. So maybe like a N'Zoth shaman, possibly, because you have a bunch of different types that he would resurrect then. But even that's maybe pushing it a bit. We have the cage match Custodian, a 2-cost 2/2 elemental that has a battle cry of draw a card. This card is kind of strange, especially for Shaman, just because Shaman really doesn't have that many weapons. They added a weapon this expansion, but still Shaman doesn't have many weapons. I just don't know what they're trying to push for. Because you've got the weapon they introduced this expansion, you've got Doomhammer, and I can't even, think of another one. Ritual Dagger? Is that a Shaman one? I don't remember. It's a 1/3 that when you attack, you gain spell damage. I don't remember if that's a Shaman card or not, to be honest. I'd have to look again. But just, I don't believe in what this is trying to do. Yes, it tutors for a specific card, but it just doesn't work. I don't see it. It doesn't have enough support. This card I'm going to give a 4 out of 10. And type of deck would really only be like the weapon Shaman or attack Shaman, whatever it ends up being called if it becomes a thing. If anything, it would maybe be like tier 4, I would guess. Pitmaster. 3-cost 1/2 Battlecry. You summon a 3/2 duelist. If you corrupt it, you summon 2. Honestly, a decent amount of value coming out of the card with it being corrupted. It doesn't really necessarily fit any type of deck in particular. It just generates a pretty good amount of value after it is corrupted. So probably would go more towards a control type deck. Or maybe a tempo. A tempo might not be bad. Because you play something for 4, and then turn 5 you play this, which I'd say is a pretty good tempo swing, even playing this on turn 5. Because you could probably play this and maybe some kind of 2-cost minion, or even just your hero power. So maybe like a tempo card. But honestly, overall, it's not a bad card. It just maybe doesn't fit in this current meta. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. But types of deck that it would probably be in, you may not see it around this current meta. It would probably be like a control Shaman it would probably go into, or a tempo, as I was also talking about. Revolve. 2-cost, or 1-cost. Where am I getting 2 from? 1-cost. Transform all minions into random ones with the same cost. I still do not understand what this card is for, how it's supposed to help. I mean, I guess it could help out Pitmaster. Maybe a little bit, but not terribly much. It just... There's... Like, if you go to Wild, there's Evolve, which makes sense because it's giving you something that costs more, and there's other cards that are like transform your minions into something that costs more. I do not want to transform my minions into something that costs the same, because generally it's going to end up being about the same value as the one that was already there, and I put that card there for a reason. So I do not see really the potential of this card. There's some potential of like you play a minion that's like small but has a battle cry of summoning something big, and then you transform it into something of the same cost, which then is obviously going to be better than, like, for example, our former champ I can think of right off the top of my head, which I know isn't Wild, but it's a 5-cost 1/1 that has battle cry of summoning a 5/5. You transform that 5-cost 1/1 into something else that is 5-cost, which is a good amount of value right there. But generally, I don't see it. I don't think it fits in this meta, and I don't think it's going to fit very well anywhere too well. Because, like, if you take it to Wild, you have Evolve Shaman, more, well, not too much in Wild, but Evolve Shaman can be a thing, and this is just underwhelming in every sense of the way in Wild. So it doesn't work anywhere. So I am going to give it a 3 out of 10. Actually, no, I'm going to go a 2 out of 10. Because it is not good. Type of decks you'll see this in, you won't see it. If you do, I'll be surprised. Call me out, I don't care. Then I was wrong. But I don't see it. I don't see the point of it. Storm Strike. 3-cost spell. You deal 3 damage to a minion, and you give your hero +3 attack this turn. More support for the attack shaman. This card is not bad. Honestly, I think this card is actually relatively decent. And it could go into other decks besides attack shaman. Because the value on it is relatively decent. 3 damage to deal 3 is okay. And then you get 3 attack, which is fine. Overall, it balances out well. I will give this card a 6 out of 10. And most likely you'd see this in like an attack shaman. Or maybe you'd even see it in like control. Maybe you'd see it in control. So this could actually be pretty decent at controlling the board early game. Whack-a-Knoll Hammer. 3-cost, 3/2 weapon. After your hero attacks, you give a random friendly minion +1/+1. It's okay. I honestly do like the weapon. Because it's obviously better than Fiery War Axe. Most things are better than Fiery War Axe at this point. If it breathes, it is better than Fiery War Axe at this point. It's so sad. That card used to be good. Not anymore. So the benefit is getting that +2/+2 to random friendly minions, unless you end up giving this weapon more durability, which I don't think Shaman has options of that, because Shaman is not meant to have that many weapons. Shaman is meant to cast spells. Anyway, yelling out of the way. This card isn't bad. It's fine. It doesn't... There isn't enough... Yes, they've given plenty of options for attack shaman this expansion, but there's no support in any other expansion. You cannot make a deck based off of, like, 6 cards. That is why I'm saying there is not enough support for attack shaman. It just doesn't work. Yes, you could probably run this in other shaman decks, and it's fine, but do not try to make attack shaman. If someone okay, you can try to make attack shaman. It will probably not work, though. Probably not. But I will give this card a 6 out of 10 because it is still decent. It's not great. It's fine. Type of decks you'll see this in. If attack shaman becomes a thing, you'll see it in that. Very likely. If that's a thing. Or you could maybe see it in like control shaman. No, probably not. This is not a good control shaman card. I'm trying to think. There was Galakron Shaman, Totem Shaman, and the other shaman I don't even remember. We have Inari Storm Crash, 5-cost, 4/5 legendary. On your turn, your hero has +2 attack and Wind Fury. Honestly, a very strong card. A very good card. The only card that I would really honestly run besides the weapon for the and that other thing, but like this would be another card that's good for attack shaman because it has attack and Wind Fury. Oh my goodness, it's better than Doomhammer because you have infinite durability. Well, honestly, technically what it's going to end up being is you're going to get 2 attacks on the turn you play it, and then Storm Crash is going to die. We know how that's going to go. But the card itself is not bad. I like the card very much. Getting the attack in 1 Fury is very good. Stats are fine, especially with the text. It makes it very strong. I'll give this a 7 out of 10. Type of deck you'll see this in Attack Shaman, if it becomes a thing. Or maybe you could see it in a Highlander Shaman. No, Highlander Shaman is not a thing. I can't remember what that last one is, and it's going to bother me. Anyway, it's good. It could probably find its way into a few different type of decks because of the sheer amount of value it creates. Grand Totem Eyesore. 3 cost 0/4 legendary totem. At the end of your turn, you give +1/+1 to all other totems in your hand, deck, and battlefield. I was not aware that Totem Shaman was a tier 2 deck. So when I made my preview analysis of this card, I thought it had no chance of being useful. My goodness, was I wrong. I did not know there was a Totem Shaman. Basically because I haven't been looking at the meta since the expansion before Scholarman's Academy. So that is pretty darn good then, especially so. My goodness, I like it then. Like it does. As I said in the preview, it's a big buff to all the totems. I just didn't think that there was a Totem Shaman, but there is a Totem Shaman, and it has a decent amount of totems. So this is obviously a shoo-in card for the Totem Shaman. So the rating I am going to give this is a 7 out of 10. And the type of decks you'll see it in is obviously the Totem Shaman. You might not see it in too many other decks. You will probably only see it in the Totem Shaman. Because it has no place in any other deck. If there's no totems in it, there's no point in putting this in the deck. So Totem Shaman is a beautiful fit for this and works very well in that deck. And that is going to be it for the Shaman cards. Next time, I will be talking about the Priest cards. I will see you then.